Hello everyone, this is Stepan and welcome to Hanging Pawns. Round 4 of the candidates tournament is still underway, but Mamedyarov and Wesley So finished much earlier than in the other 3 games. After the first 3 games, Wesley So has had a horrible start, I might say. He has only 1 draw from round 3 and he lost the first 2 rounds, so this round 4 after the break day should be his chance to recuperate and to get back into the tournament if he wants to stand the chance, because the tournament is a double round robin, so everybody plays everybody twice, and that means that after this game he only has 10 rounds left to do something, while for example Vladimir Kramnik, who is in first place at the moment, already has 2.5 points from the first 3 rounds, so and even 1 point can be a hard thing to get to in chess, and if you are 2 points behind, it's very hard to get close to the leaders. In this game, Mamedyarov was white against Wesley So, and he opened with pawn to d4. Wesley replies with knight f6. We have c4, e6, inviting the Nimzo-Indian defense, knight to c3. By Mamedyarov he obliges, and we have bishop to b4, queen to c2, the main line on the queen c2 Nimzo-Indian. We have d5 by Wesley So, the main move, a3, chasing the bishop away, and queen c2 is played because once the bishop captures, which is the main line, so bishop takes c3, white can recapture with the queen and not double his c-pawns, which is common in some Nimzo-Indian lines, but queen c2 is played just to prevent that. We have knight to e4, which isn't the most common move. The most common move is castles here, which is supposed to be the best for black, or d takes c4, but knight to e4 is the third most common. So knight to e4 by Wesley So, queen retreats back to c2, c5, an energetical move by Wesley So in this position, d takes c5, and knight to c6, the best move once again. And in this position, Mamedyarov decides to relieve the central tension with c takes d5. We have e takes d5 and knight to f3 developing a piece. And this position is still highly theoretical, and it's a well-known line, so both players played pretty much a tempo, so using almost no time. Queen to f6 by Wesley So, threatening to perhaps play bishop to g4 and then double white's pawns if he should play e3, which is the most logical move, because there is really not much point to developing the bishop on g2 by playing g3. And Mamedyarov plays e3, and here Wesley plays bishop to g4 as planned, and now he's threatening to capture the knight on f3 and then take the pawn with the queen. And Mamedyarov replies with bishop to e2, defending, and this position is still well known, and there's even 17 games in live book from this exact position, so, and it's very commonly played in grandmaster games. Here both side castles, rook f to e8, developing the rook on the semi-open file, bishop to d2, preparing to give up the bishop pair, but it would be in exchange for the knight on e4, which is perhaps the strongest minor piece on the board at the moment. And Wesley So replies with not the best move. The best move would be knight to e5, challenging the knight once more, and the knight can't capture on d5 because the bishop would take on e2. But he plays d4, which is a good move, but it's not the best. It's opening up the position, and if you notice, the bishop on e2 is loose and it's undefended, so if you imagine e taking d4 and then the knight moving, then the bishop would be loose. Of course, if the knight should take the bishop on d2, then queen would recapture and the bishop would still be defended, but in some variations the bishop could be hanging. So practically speaking, and since it's humans playing, not computers, it's a very good move. Mamedyarov replies with rook a to d1, defending the dark squared bishop, and here the knight captures. It gives itself up for the bishop pair, and we have a rook takes d2, and this is the last known position, and from this position the game changes. Rook takes d2 is the first novelty of the game. Usually players with white would capture with the queen because that would defend the e3 pawn some more. And here Wesley So immediately exploits that, and he takes the pawn on e3. And now if f captures c3, then the rook would take and black would be a pawn up. So Mamedyarov finds an excellent move. He plays rook to d6, the only move to keep equality or even be a bit better. So he challenges the queen, not giving black time to react. We have a rook to e6, defending the queen, and f takes c3. And by the way, in this position, he could have taken on f2 with check, with e takes f2, but much better is to defend the queen. So we have rook e6, and here Mamedyarov captures the pawn on e3, and of course now Wesley So can't take on e3 because the queen would be hanging. So he takes the rook, we have c takes, and now the d pawn is hanging. But first Wesley So decides to trade minor pieces. He takes bishop takes f3, we have bishop takes f3, and now queen takes d6, grabbing a pawn. And the material situation is equal. The position is unfortunately for Wesley So completely equal, and perhaps white even stands a bit better. And I can't understand Wesley's psychology at this moment. He has only one draw from the first 3 rounds, and I can't notice him pushing for a win. Not in yesterday's game, and not today. He trades pieces and he enters passive positions. Perhaps he should have responded to d4 with something attacking like the Benoni, something double-edged, or at least a position which is not so well known theoretically, which would give Mamedyarov a chance to enter a drawish line, because he stands much better in the tournament. Mamedyarov responds with queen to b3, attacking the b pawn, queen to e7, defending, and also queen to b3 is also targeting the f7 pawn. And now bishop d5 highlights that. Now the pawn is attacked twice, but it's defended twice as well. Still, Wesley So retreats the knight to d8, defending once more, and defending the b7 pawn as well. Rook to c1, defending on the much more active file. Queen to d7, queen to c4. Queen to d7 was played to make sure he could play rook to c8 and challenge the rook on c1, and Mamedyarov responds with queen to c4, preventing that, because now the c8 square is attacked twice. We have knight to e6. Wesley So offers another trade, and it's accepted. Bishop takes c6, f takes c6, and queen to d4. Mamedyarov now offers a trade of queens, which Wesley So accepts. And once again, I don't really understand him. We have queen takes d4, e takes d4, rook f8, developing the rook and preventing the king from entering the position. Rook to c7, attacking the b7 pawn, and Wesley So plays the only response which saves a pawn, because if he should play b6, then the a7 pawn would fall. He plays rook to f7. We have rook to c8 check, rook f8, rook to c7, rook f7, rook c8 check, and rook f8. And in this position, they agree the draw. It's completely justified. It's a rook endgame in which perhaps if the queens weren't traded, both sides would have winning chances. But now, with almost a completely symmetrical pawn structure, with 2 versus 2 on the king side and on the queen side, and central pawns which will inevitably be exchanged, neither side really has any winning chances. And if Mamedyarov didn't go for a repetition in this position with queen c8, rook c8, rook c7, then his plan isn't clear actually. There's no way for him to attack any more pawns, and he also can't give up the c file because it's the only open file. And perhaps he could have attacked e6 somehow, and then Wesley So would capture on d4, and those pawns would be traded, and that would be the end. And definitely, I mean, it's a very quick draw. All the other games are still going on, and this game finished in only, I think, 90 minutes of play. So neither player has shown attacking spirit and the real struggle to win, and that especially applies to Wesley So. As I said before, he stands horribly in the tournament, and if he wishes to catch up, he has to change his attitude. First of all, his play is okay, and he lost the first 2 games because he made mistakes, but his game isn't that terrible for him to have only 1 point after 4 rounds. Anyway, I hope he picks himself up before tomorrow's game. He will have the white pieces, and I hope he can get his first point. I mean, not that he's my favorite in the tournament, but I just feel horrible for him to have such a bad start, or not even start anymore, such a bad tournament. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for watching and see you soon for more coverage of the candidates 2018.